I first heard that this was taking place, it struck me, I now think, an inspired partnership. At the time, I thought it was an unusual partnership. No, because to make a very crude distinction, I think Aaron Sorkin is famous as a word guy, and you're famous as a visual guy. You are, after all, the guy that directed the London Olympics. Let's not forget that. And
which I thought could have been funnier.
Hey, seriously, we could talk about this because humour is really tough in those big ceremonies. Humour is really, really tough.
Seriously, had you ever been given a script with that much dialogue?
No. I mean, have you ever read anything with that much dialogue? I mean, it's just like...
No. I mean,
and you told me the other night that when in the screenplay that you were given, there were no stage directions.
Not really. There was like, this is the first bit, and there's...
This is the first bit. This is the second bit. And then there's another bit.
And there's the third bit. And they're all interior day continuous. So it is a provocation, isn't it? Because you're basically not trying to direct it. You're just you're writing it and saying... And he's a team player. He has a reputation as being not difficult, anal, protective, careful about his work. But he's in search of collaborators who can deliver this stuff. Otherwise, you'd just write the novel, wouldn't you? And just let people... But you want it to be heard and seen and...
Oh, sure. Yeah, no. Even if I were capable of writing a novel, which I don't think I am, I don't have powers of description. I don't think I'd want to. I like what happens.
Yeah, because there are novels of dialogue, aren't there? I've read some of them, which are just like literally just dialogue from the beginning to end, and you do that amazingly. But you want it to be public, because we all do. That's the business we're in. We want it to be, in some sense, shared and heard and criticised and liked and all those kind of things. That's part of our work.
But also it was quite unusual because Aaron was in the rehearsal room with us for every single moment. I mean, there was no moment when I don't think you were there, apart from when you were smoking outside or going to eat more bread goods. But you think I didn't notice you eating those donuts?
Oh, I know you did, because you and like the gluten police.
But it was amazing, I have to say, that the rehearsal process, which was something that I had...
Before we talk about that, how did you get involved in the first place?
Well, I really quite like telling this story. Are you bored of it yet?
No, not at all. Because, by the way, there's an extra part that I can add
wait.
that you haven't
I actually would
heard.
quite like to know what happened before I came along.
No,
by the way.
Go ahead, tell your story.
So I was in Australia working on a different film. This is just at the end of last year, really not very long ago at all. We were coming to the end of that shoot, and I was coming up on quite a nice big break. I'd had a busy few years, and also had a baby, and so was kind of just looking forward to some downtime. And the hair and makeup artist who was on that film is a brilliant, originally Croatian hair and makeup designer named Ivana Primorac. And I'd worked with her on The Reader and a few other things. And we were just chit-chatting, as you do in the hair and makeup trailer. And she came in one morning all buzzing, and she said, now, in hushed tones, she sort of shut the makeup, and she said, really exciting things happened overnight. I've had an email from Scott Rudin. He gets everywhere. I've had an email from Scott Rudin, and I think they want me to do the Steve Jobs film, and Danny Boyle seems quite keen. He might fly down for a meeting, and this kind of goes on. I'm going, wow, that's amazing. She said, yes. So I think Michael Fassbender is probably going to play Steve Jobs. I'm going, oh my God, I know. It's been written by Aaron Sorkin. I'm going, oh my, this is fantastic. Wow. Shoots in San Francisco. They start in a month. It's really fast turnaround. And so this goes on, then a couple of days go by, and I sort of get the latest installment every morning in the hair and makeup trailer, same deal, shuts the door. You won't believe what's happening. So I get these sort of things going on. And then finally, after sort of 3 or 4 days of hearing about what's going on with her gig, I finally say, what's it about? And so she then described how it was constructed in these 3 scenes. And then I found myself saying, what's the girl's part? Because of course I knew there had to be one. And she sort of clutched my shoulders and went, oh my God, oh Kate, oh my God. And we then sort of started cooking up this plan. Honestly, in the middle of nowhere with no Wi-Fi in Australia, of how somehow we were going to get somebody to send me this script. And so I knew at that point, actually, that the part was on offer to somebody else. And I just felt I had to, leave it alone, bide my time. Luckily, she turned it down, fool. And so so I made the most of this moment and threw my hat in the ring and just let it be known that should they feel like sending the script my way, I would be delighted to have a little look. And I'm lucky that they responded in the correct way and sent me the script.
You sent Scott the picture of you in the wig, okay?
Oh, yes.
Scott sent the picture to me.
Okay, good. That was my plan.
With no text, just the picture. And I thought it was that Scott had found an old picture of a young Joanna Hoffman. And I just wrote back, cool. And Scott wrote back to me, do you know who that is? And I wrote back, of course. And he wrote back, I don't think you do. And I wrote back, it's Joanna. And he wrote back, it's Kate. And I wrote back, that's Kate Blanchett? And then my phone rang. And I said hello, and it was Scott. And he said, Winslet, you idiot!
But can I say one thing, actually, that after Joanna, the real Joanna Hoffman, saw the film, she sent me a very lovely email saying how much she had enjoyed it and wanting me specifically to pass on to Michael Fassbender how wonderful it was to see the real Steve and his warmth. And so that's one thing that, you know, I wish I could say that to Steve's widow. I've never met her.
Yep.
But, you know, that's, for me, that's the whole point of why this story, our story, is different to perhaps previous ones or documentaries. You know, it does give you access to a side of Steve Jobs that I think people really didn't know was there, because of how he has been so talked about as being notoriously difficult to work for, perfectionist, would intimidate grown men, etc., etc. But he was a man, he was a father, he was a human being. And Joanna, the character, gives you access to that world. And Danny and Michael and I spent a lot of time, we all spent a lot of time rehearsing every single scene, but focusing a lot on the physicality between the two of them, didn't we?
Yeah, that's right.
Because we wanted to make sure that it felt tangible, you know. We said to Joanna, you know, so before a launch, you know, what would happen? You'd have these frantic last 5 minutes. Let's say, for example, what would happen? She said, well, I mean, mostly I couldn't find him, but then when we did, you know, and I'd say, would there be a high five? She'd go, oh, no, hugs, always, yeah, lots of hugs. And so that was kind of a light bulb moment for us, wasn't it? Because we then realised that, you know, there were no boundaries really between the two of them, and actually that opens up a whole platform for a relationship that can be, you know, much more tactile and real and rooted in, you know, and proper love and affection.
You seem to be a Tony Award away from receiving the elusive EGOT.
I know.
So I wondered if you would ever
So when are
be
you going to do a
inspired
play,
to
I think
come
is the
back.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To come back to Broadway, and if we could look forward to seeing you on stage at any point.
Well, oh shit! Okay, Sorkin, you do it, I'll be in it.
Okay.
And then I'll try and win that fucker. Because now, people have recently pointed this out to me, and it's like, oh, it's a thing. I'm gonna it's gonna be a thing, and I'm gonna have to have it as a goal. And I never really had one of those, but I suppose I'm gonna have to have one now, aren't I? Because, well, you've brought it up.
Yeah.
So,
When's the last time
can
you
we
were-
please make that deal?
I would love that.
good.
Honestly, the Grammy you would think would be the most elusive,
I've
but
got
I
one.
know you've
Isn't
got
that
one.
bizarre? Yes, for spoken word. Isn't that bizarre?
You are a Tony away from going full EGOT.